Purchase an eligible new 30 to 450 horsepower Yamaha outboard and get up to 7 years of coverage protection, plus up to $500 in dealer credit, or earn up to $700 in dealer credit on eligible 2.5 to 25 horsepower models. Fall into savings today.
Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine. It's November 6th. These are your headlines. It's been kind of a parade of storms lately, but the tog have been biting well in between the blows. And we've seen some really good striped bass action firing up on South County beaches right ahead of these storms. Outside of that, it's been a lot of freshwater. Guys doing well at Wachusett Reservoir, seeing a lot of nice stock trout being caught. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England's Fishing Forecast.
The ultimate fishing authority in the Northeast, the Fisherman magazine.
Before we begin, we got a few news items for you guys. First thing I want to talk about is something that just barely missed my deadline last week, and that was the ASMFC's decision on striped bass. If you haven't been following along, I'm going to let you know now that the ASMFC voted to accept the status quo option, which means no changes for 2026. So we'll still be fishing on the same slot limit, 28 to less than 31 inches, with a 1 fish bag limit per angler per day. And this has been met with mixed reviews, depending on where you stand in the world of striped bass. Some people are very happy about it. Some people are not so happy about it. And there's been a little bit of a talk online about this being sort of a dry deal. In other words, that the members of the ASMFC knew what they were going to do ahead of time and just didn't consider anything, which really, I don't think that's true. I think a lot of the people that are saying that didn't listen to the meeting. Something that came out in between the public hearings back in September, and since the public comment period closed, is the first half of the 2025 season, so January to June, or through June, the MRIP numbers for striped bass, and they were basing these decisions on an assumption that the removals was going to be much higher than it actually was, to the tune of 44%. So it was 44% lower than they expected. Now, there's definitely there could be cause for concern there as well. Why did recreational anglers catch so many fewer fish than they thought they would? That's a great question that has not yet been answered. But those numbers, being as different as they were, made a change in the equations that they used to sort of make these decisions. And basically, it spit out a number that was favorable enough that they felt like they still had a good chance of meeting their 2029 rebuild goal, with the limits staying the same. So I think that's the part that a lot of people missed, or a lot of people are forgetting, is that there was some rhyme or reason behind why this decision was made. And, everybody has their own opinions on it. I have my own. I'm going to kind of keep them to myself for now, try to be professional about it. But the long and the short of it is that we are fishing under status quo this year, and that's what it's going to be. Another little bit of news that came out last week was that Massachusetts has made some changes to their commercial striped bass fishery. And what that's going to mean is that anyone who had a commercial striped bass permit in either 2024 or 2025 will be able to renew that going into the future. Anyone that didn't cannot get one. And so basically they're capping the number of commercial permits that are going to be allowed. Now this is something that's been accepted in theory or in concept, but there's still going to be a public comment period along with a meeting which is going to be done online, a Zoom meeting, which is going to be on December 2nd at 6 p.m. I will put a link in the description below so you guys can get registered for that, and I will be continuously reminding you guys as we get closer to that date. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. This is another polarizing issue, to be sure, and it'll be interesting to see how things shake out as we progress further into that realm. Next thing, let's check in with our tournaments. Here's what's going on in the Coastal Kayak Clash and the Dreamboat Challenge.
It is the first week in November, and here are the latest entries to the Dreamboat Fishing Challenge. From Jamesport, New York is Long Island subscriber Garrett Kraus, who weighed in at We Go Bait and Tackle, a 7.1-pound blackfish, which places Garrett 9th in the blackfish category. Up next and beating out last week's blackfish entry, his own by the way, is Long Island subscriber Rashawn Williams from Brooklyn, New York, weighing in at Snug Harbor Marina, a 13.16-pound blackfish, which places Rashawn first in the blackfish division and keeps him climbing the leaderboard. The leaderboard now stands like this: Rashawn Williams retaining first place and getting his points even higher with 28 points. Thomas Luciano maintaining second with 20 points. Ahmed Solomon holding third with 19 points. There were no new entries in the Coastal Kayak Clash this week, so the leaderboard remains the same. Rotha Nong has 6 points, Dustin Stevens in second with 6 points, and Bob Wagner in third place with 5 points.
Now let's check in with Jenni Ackerman. Here's what's going, well, here's a little preview of her latest installment of Open Boat.
Stay tuned for this week's latest open boat adventure with Jenni Ackerman. From tackling new lures, hooking into the catch of the day, or learning something new about a species. Tune in every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Jenni's latest open boat episode. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and most importantly, catch 'em up.
Next thing are the giveaways, of which we have 2 going on right now. First one is the TOG giveaway, or the Blackfish giveaway, and that one's going to wrap up next Wednesday. I think last week I said the 15th, but it's actually the 12th. My apologies. We do have a pretty clear leader at the moment, so you're going to have to take a pretty great photo to unseat the king, as it were, but not impossible. If you can get out there between the blows and get a good photo, you're going to have a chance at that. This one is a bunch of stuff that TJ Kopecky has put up, and it's got a de-hooker in there, a bunch of pre-tied rigs, some sinkers that he poured, and then I added some TOG treats, TOG jigs to the pot just to sweeten things up a little bit more. So it's a pretty good, little pile of loot. And then we have what I've been calling the greater giveaway, not because it's better, but because it's bigger. And this one just has a pile of tackle that we're going to give away. This one wraps up on December 3rd. And basically what you've got in there, you've got a Yo-Zuri mag pencil, which is a really great topwater bait. You've got a Yo-Zuri monster shot in there. You got some voodoo shads. You got some bait fuel grubs. We've got a twitch bait from Tsunami. And we've got a fillet knife from Dexter. So a nice little pile of stuff. Right now, I would say that giveaway is pretty wide open. We have some good photos, some really good photos, but I don't have one yet where I'm like, that's probably going to win. So get out there, take some great pics, and in either case, in either giveaway, and your photos can count for both. If you get a nice TOG, it's going to count for both, so don't worry about that. But you're going to want to send your photos in to danderson@thefisherman.com or text them to the number on the screen. In your subject line of your email, just put giveaway. That makes it really easy for me to find it. And if you send me a text, just tell me you want to be in the giveaways, and then just give me all the pertinent details. Who caught the fish, roughly where it was caught, how big it was, what it was caught on, anything else that you think makes it unique. We'll get you in the magazine, we'll get you in the report, and you might even win something cool. As we move over into the reports now, I think the first thing we need to talk about is the weather. We have had an incredible parade of storms, and it's only gotten worse this week. We have multiple wind events this week, with forecasts for winds gusting up into the 50-mile-an-hour range. We have 3 more of these systems going to move through the end of the weekend, which is, it's going to make fishing tough, and it also makes gathering reports tougher. So, I mean, the main thing I want to say is you got to be safe out there. Don't push yourself to get out there in the slop just because it's the weekend and you got a day off. Make smart decisions. Pick your windows. We're going to get some weather windows. I guarantee it. Those are the times to get out there and fish. So now let's move over into the reports. Starting things up in Maine and New Hampshire, really haven't heard much this week. I think just with the relentless blows and the changeover from saltwater to fresh, just not getting a lot of reports out of Maine and New Hampshire. Definitely smallmouth time. definitely jerkbait time for largemouth. That would probably be the thing that I would be doing if I was fishing up in Maine right now. Dropping down over the border into Massachusetts, sounds like this last storm may have sealed the deal from Plum Island down to Boston. Not a lot of striped bass reports at all this week. Heard about a few guys getting out on Plum Island in the daytime. No one that I talked to had actually caught a fish. So there's still guys out there trying to be the hero, trying to be the one that gets the last striper, but things are winding down pretty quick there. As we go through the Boston area and get down into the South Shore, pretty much the same story there. There are some small fish still around in that area. I've even seen like 1 or 2 slot fish caught, but that was before this last system went through. So, you know, I think we're coming close to the end up there. One place that would be worth giving a try if you want to get out there and just, you know, gut one out would be the beaches adjacent to the east end of the canal. A lot of times those last migrating fish push up against those beaches and probably ultimately go through the ditch. But that's an area to look at, especially if we get some north wind. Out on the bay side of the Cape, stories about the same. Outer beaches, stories about the same. Have not heard really of anybody doing any striped bass damage anywhere in those areas. I think most of the guys that I've been talking to on the Cape have been doing freshwater action or going for some freshwater action. They are finding good largemouth bass. They're finding a lot of trout. The state's been doing doing a great job stocking. So you have that as an option. And then, you know, getting down into the Nantucket Sound area, that's where you have your best possibility of still finding some striped bass. Maybe on some of those Falmouth area inlets, maybe heading out to the Vineyard. You still might have a few bonito around. Definitely still got some tog around. Any one of those wrecks or any along the Elizabeth, you're going to find those fish. Moving up toward the canal, I didn't hear a lot from the canal this week. We'll see what Eddie heard with his video at the end of this segment. And then the only other thing that I've been hearing about that isn't freshwater related is tog fishing, which has been really hard to get in on just because it's been blowing so often. So, you know, on those off chances that you can still get out, the togging's been decent, and there's been some really nice fish in the mix. And then just moving up into the, you know, interior portions of Massachusetts, Wachusett Reservoir has been doing very well. We've seen lake trout, we've been seeing really nice smallmouth coming out of there, and you can sort of extrapolate things out from there. The bass bite's been decent in interior Massachusetts and really throughout all of interior New England. And now let's check in with our Massachusetts field correspondents.
Hi Dave, it's a beautiful fall morning here on the world famous Cape Cod Canal. Got a west ebb tide behind me, and so most surf casters, canal rats, have got their gear put away. This will be my last report and my last day fishing of the year. There are still some fish in the canal, and there'll be more coming. So Seha Yem was prospecting the bottom for tog, and he was using green Asian crabs that he harvested from under rocks on the canal, and he had those on his circle hook. He caught some to tog, including a 19-inch table setter, so good for him. And Rob Fish Sticks Pisa caught a bonito with a PB Fish 2-ounce pink epoxy jig on a rising east tide. And Glenn Lucky Cigar Lindsay was good for 3 bonito. He's caught a lot of them this year, and he was using a stripe of gear Green Mac Shaddy Daddy. And Glenn also caught his last high-end slot for the year for the table. And Bull McKinnon had a good week as usual, and he reeled in 3 striped bass, 12 to 14 pounds, with a Bob Davies 5.7-ounce white pencil. And that was as the powerful southwest wind was howling over the topwater bite on a west flood. And so amongst Bull's many accomplishments, that he's caught a fish, a striped bass, in every month of the year, all 12 months. And he used to fish much more in the winter, but that was back when, as Billy Joel would say, when Bull wore a younger man's clothes. But he's a great guy, and this year he had a 51-inch that weighed almost 50 pounds, and he had a 50-pound, 15-ounce striper that measured out to 53.5 inches. So congratulations to him on a successful season. Terrific time, and he's just a great guy. I'm happy for him. And also congratulations to all the surfcasters who wet a line in the canal this year. So my tip of the week is to make sure you take your reel to a specialist to have it get it ready for the winter. I mean, get ready for spring, for after the winter, and before you put your gear away. And or if you can do it yourself, that's fine. But if not, go to a specialist. And also make sure you rinse all the salt off of your rod, and make any repairs to your bike or to your surf bag or any of your other gear. And so enjoy the holiday season. Have a safe winter. And thank you, Dave, for putting up with my low-tech approach to things. I appreciate your patience. And have a safe winter, everybody. And God willing, I'll see you next spring.
Moving over into Rhode Island, the main thing that I heard this week was that, you know, when you can get out, when the weather calms down enough that you can actually get out in the boat and do some fishing, the togging's been good. There's been a lot of nice fish, figure in the like 6 to 12 pound range, some really nice fish being caught. It seems like they're pretty widespread at the moment, anywhere from 30 to 70 feet of water. It does sound like some of the bigger fish are airing toward the deeper side. So if you want to target a really big one, you might want to head out 60, 70 feet of water or even a little bit deeper. But the bite's been good. It hasn't been slowing down. It's just really been a matter of the weather allowing people to get out. Have not heard of any bonito or albies this week, so I would think there's probably still a chance to get a bonito. I bet you the albies are done for the year. Striped bass-wise, things have been a little tougher on the eastern half of the state. I've heard of a few schoolies here and there. I've heard of some smaller fish up inside the bay, but not a lot of fish along the beaches as of this moment. I do expect there will be at least one more push of striped bass, and it just remains to be seen how many guys are actually out there to greet them. On the western half of Point Judith, the fishing's been better, especially for stripers. Ahead of each one of these storms, we seem to be seeing flare-ups of striped bass activity. There's been some daytime blitzing with fish up to 40 inches, and then around the breachways and some of those rocky points at night, especially when you get a nice rip going with a good wind, guys are pulling some good fish on bucktails and bottle plugs and stuff like that. Have not really heard of too many guys striped bass fishing from the boats. Haven't heard from anyone that's been out to block. The only other thing that's been going on, and this is sort of a facet of the weather, is there's been a lot more guys trout fishing this week. We saw, 26 bodies of water stocked about 2 weeks ago in Rhode Island, and starting to see a lot more guys taking advantage of that. Probably, again, as a result of the fact that they just can't get out front right now. Now let's check in with our Rhode Island field correspondents.
Thanks, Dave. Hey, guys. Quick report for the East Bay area. A little bit of Mount Hope Bay. Things started to slow down a little bit this week, and I know that we've had some weather ups and downs. It's still weather ups and downs as we're speaking right now, as you're watching this video. We got northwest winds blowing 45 to 50 miles an hour. It's stirring things up. The ground fishing's been a little bit tough. In the previous week that we had, ground fishing was okay after that nor'easter type of storm that we had. It did spark up some a bass bite, mainly in Mount Hope Bay and a little bit off of Ohio Ledge in Narragansett Bay proper. The Warren and Barrington Rivers have been a little slow. There's been some really small fish up in there. Good sign. I like to see small fish. I like to catch small fish just to know that it's the future of our striped bass. But I'm talking fish from 15 to 20 inches. A lot of them feeding on smaller bait. It looks like a lot of the mullet has gotten out of the Barrington and Warren Rivers. There's still some pogies in there that are meandering around the bridge pilings. So your best bet is working at night. I found that at nighttime, they're popping on bait really mainly around the bridge pilings. Haven't gotten too much on Matheson Street, but occasionally my friend Frank's been out there and he's been catching them off the pilings and some of the docks on Matheson Street there. But nothing of size still. But I think a lot of the fish have moved out. The bite for tautog off of Colt State Park is still good. There's been no scup reported at all up in there anymore. It's just mainly tog, oyster, toadfish that they're catching, and a lot of cunners, bourgils, whatever you want to call them, choggies. There's been a lot of those around, and moving out into Mount Hope Bay on Mount Hope Bridge. Had a couple outings this weekend, And I'll tell you, I ran into some really finicky bass off of Spar Island. They wouldn't hit the top water. They wouldn't hit a 5-inch. They wouldn't hit a 4-inch paddle tail. I really couldn't get anything. I mean, I was pretty much on my way back to the dock, but I did see some really small fish being caught. And my friend Joe just sent me a video, and he lives on Seaview Ave in Swansea. And he sent me a video of some fish breaking really hard. And they look like there was some bigger fish. I couldn't find any bigger fish in Mahout Bay. I know they're there. They're busting on bait. I also did see some shad busted on bait in Mahout Bay also. Couldn't catch any of those. Threw every single thing I had in my box at them. Would not bite. And they still are on some small real krill or small bait that's in there. The tautog fishing continues to be unbelievable underneath Mahout Bridge. I got fish up to 6.5 pounds this weekend on crabs at the Piling, 50 feet of water. And we did catch a surprise fluke in about 49 feet of water. We're just drifting for some sea bass because there's decent sea bass in Mahout Bay still right now. We just drifting some gulp shrimp on just a high-low rig with a sinker on the bottom. And we connected with a nice 12, I think it was a 12.5 or 14-inch fluke. But it was just nice to see. The water's 57 degrees in there, so no reason why there wouldn't be a fluke in there still. But just one that hasn't moved out yet, and they're feeding. So we continue to try to look for a couple other ones we didn't connect. But I gotta tell you, it's just weird with the weather and then the tides, and then we got a moon right now. So hopefully things are just gonna stay a little bit longer here in Mahout Bay. I see there's a lot of bait, so I think there's still gonna be some bass around. So that's what we got from the East Bay and Mahout Bay. Tight lines. We'll catch you next week, guys.
What's up, Dave? What's going on, everybody? Checking in with you this week. Let's start on the saltwater side of things. I feel like it's been blowing out of the north, south, east, and west sustained for like the past month. But hey, if you pay attention, there are some weather windows you can get out there if you're capable to get out there. In this, let's be honest, this is New England weather. Like there's no sugarcoating it. This is New England weather. So there's going to be a lot of wind, a lot of rain, and a lot of crappy days. So you just got to maximize your time out there. The tog bites just keeps on getting better and better. The jig bite's been outstanding. The rig bite's been very good. From 100 feet all the way up to 25 feet right now. So you get best of both worlds. We've been limiting out every trip we've been going on. We got a couple double digits the other day. So the tog are chewing even better every time we go out. So it just keeps on getting better and better, Dave. Keeps producing. The white leggers, if you want to fish the deep water stuff, the green crabs and Asian crabs, if you want to fish the mid to shallow water depths, that's been producing very nice fish. It's been a tog world out there right now. If we can get away from the wind and tuck and hide, but I do have to say, and the good news is the wind's not going to last forever. It's got to shut off eventually. So, and aside from the tog right now, there's been a lot of mackerel. So I like free pike bait and I like free fluke bait. So, I just fill the freezers with mackerel, and for next year's fluke season, I'll have mackerel strips, and then for pike fishing through the late fall into the winter into early spring, I'll have some mackerel to rig up for pike. So it's a great option to think about. So sabiki rigs and epoxy jigs are doing the trick for that. Aside from saltwater, I've been doing some trout fishing, some largemouth fishing, and I would be doing some pike fishing very soon, and just kind of get everything together and get ready for my late fall pike sends. But I've been throwing the big baits, the Huddleston 68s around, big topwater baits. Very, very slow on big setups. Shimano Corvallis has a slow gear ratio. It's a 4.8 inches per turn. You can really slow roll that. Let me put the grip on that. Really slow roll that. Like it takes like 5 to 10 minutes for me to retrieve this in. I'm really thorough at the bottom. I want this hitting off every single rock I can think of. I just want to maximize my time in the strike zone, and big fish do eat big baits. So I love this 68 special Huddleston. It works very well like the fisheries I like to fish. And I fished that on an extra heavy 1 to 4 ounce Tsunami Classic rod. It's actually one of my tog rig setups, but this works great for 68 size Huddlestons. And that's pretty much the name of the game right now. And I have been doing some trout fishing. The trout bite's been picking up steadily as the water gets colder and the days get colder. The trout just start chewing even more. That's going to start picking up more and more as we go on in the weeks. And that's pretty much the name of the game for me this week, Dave, and I'll catch you guys next week. Peace.
Hey guys, John Lee, Point Jewett, Rhode Island. Same story as last week and the week before. It's been a lot of wind. We've really been only able to get out maybe 3 times a week, but those trips have been good. Tog fishing's great. Sea bass fishing, even fairly close to shore, is still holding up. And there's quite a few big green bonitas around, mixed with some blues. Hopefully we got some pretty heavy weather coming Thursday and Saturday. Hopefully these fish stick around. The cod bite for us has been about 60 feet, 70 feet. We're getting a good pick of big sea bass in with those. And the bonitas have been kind of sporadic around the island. Just look for the birds. Anyway, have a good one. Get up to you next time.
Moving over into Connecticut, I'd say the story is about the same as it is in Rhode Island. The togging's been good when you can get out. There's been some really nice sea bass in some of the deeper areas being caught over the last week or so. It does seem like, prior to that, there was a lot of short fish. It does seem like this sort of mixing of the water with these relentless storms cooled the water temp down a little bit and pushed some of those smaller fish out. So it's a little easier to target the bigger sea bass. Have not heard of any porgies this week. But togging's been good throughout pretty much the entire state. Another thing I've heard is that we're still hearing about some weak fish and some decent bites, especially in the central western half of the sound. It doesn't sound like it hasn't been like a crazy bite, but when you find the fish, it's been good, and there's been some really good sized fish being caught, fish up into the mid to upper 20-inch range, which is really great to see. And this weak fish bite's really been hanging on this year. On the striper end of things, I would say most of the guys that are doing well with striped bass are concentrating on the mouths of the rivers or estuaries. There is still a lot of bait moving in and out of these estuaries. That's been holding these fish a little closer and to the shore, and kind of concentrating them in areas that make them a little bit more targetable. I would say your opportunity for having a good fishing session goes up if you're fishing an area where you know that striped bass hold over. So that could be the Housatonic, could be the Connecticut River, could be the Hoosie, I already said that, or the Thames is what I meant to say, or any of the lesser ones that people don't talk about as much. You do have the opportunity to find some of these fish that are starting to sort of stage up to move up into these holdover areas. So that's definitely something you can concentrate on as well. And then on the freshwater side of things, the state's been stocking salmon. I know they just did the Naugatuck River. They've been doing more salmon. They've been putting in more salmon than they did in the last few years. These fish are nice sized fish. They are averaging, up into the low 20-inch range, maybe a few even bigger than that. And they put up a great fight, and it's a really unique opportunity to have this as something that you can fish for in Connecticut. Outside of that, that's pretty much the name of the game. The trout fishing's been good. The state's been stocking some trophy brook trout as well, which you can go on to Deep's website and sort of track down where those have been put in. Now let's check in with our Connecticut field correspondents.
Hey everybody, for this week's fishing report, now that we're into November, we're starting to shift our focus more towards black fishing. As the water temperature cools down, the black fishing gets better. So we're going to be on the blackfish bite. Also, some migratory schools of stripers, mostly schoolie size. You might get some slotfish mixed in, but you can look for the birds, and when you find birds, there's going to be bait under them, and there'll probably be some schools of stripers migrating through as well. They're definitely on the move, so you might not find them in the same place every day, but if you look around for those birds, you should be able to come across some schools of stripers migrating through Long Island Sound. That's all I have for you for this week. Good luck.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites.
What's up, everyone? Matt here from Black Hole Outfitters in Westbrook with this week's fishing report. The wind is still cranking for us most days, but if you can find a little window to get out, the black fishing bite has been good. Still pretty shallow. I've moved a little bit deeper, like 20 to 30 feet, but they're still in the 15 to 18 range too. Still some stripers kicking around. I've seen the small ones all over the place going pretty crazy. And that seems to be kind of the main focus right now. So if you can sneak out, go for it, and get some time in between the wind.
Hey everyone, Max here from Fisherman's World with your weekly fishing report. We're on some big tides, 8.5 to close to 9 foot tides this week. So look for diamond jigging to get going on our deep water reefs. Places to check out are definitely 11B, Eaton's Neck, the OB buoy, and 28C on the outgoing. This time of year, you can hit some really big bluefish. You know, I've heard of some blues around now in that 12 to 14 pound class. They're not everywhere, but there are some schools around on deep water reefs. There are starting to be a lot more bass starting to mix in on our deeper water reefs, but most of the bass action still remains along our beaches, like off Fairfield, Penfield Reef, Sherwood Island, Calf Pasture, and south of the islands. Plugging up tight early morning is your best bet with all the peanut bunkers still up and tight in our harbors, estuaries, and tidal rivers. Once we see this water get around 55 degrees, look for this bunker to start flood out of our harbors and estuaries and mayhem to break loose. You know, guys are throwing anything from bucktails, pencil poppers, spooks, super strike poppers, and of course your favorite paddle tails like the tsunami swim shad, storms, and gravity tackles paddle tail. The blackfish bite still remains consistent. Now we're starting to get really good reports of some deep water wrecks in that like 50 to 80 foot mark with some nice 5 to 8 pound and even some double digit blackfish this past week with guys getting out between the winds. The shallow water bite still remains consistent. A lot of shorts. Guys are saying 30 to 1 ratios with some porgies and stripers mixed in. So that's lock and load action, but you want to look for some bigger blackfish and some knothead sea bass. Definitely get on our wrecks. Thanks and good luck.
That's what I have for you guys in the reports this week. Hopefully it's going to inspire you to get out there. Man, you know, with this wind this weekend, I think it's going to be tough. I think your best bet is probably going to be to switch over to freshwater for a few days. Best of luck with that. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, take some pictures and send them in to me at danderson@thefisherman.com, and we'll get you in the contest. We'll get you in the magazine. You might show up here in the report. If you're not a subscriber to The Fisherman, I highly recommend you head to our website. That's thefisherman.com. We give you a full taste of what we offer for free. We cover all the fishing from Delaware to Maine. We have travel pieces that extend outside the region. We do all angling disciplines. If you're a shore guy, surf guy, if you're a jet ski guy, if you're a kayak guy, or if you've got, triple outboards and you're heading out to the canyons, we've got you covered. If you go to the website and you're still not interested, at the very least, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube and hit that little bell thing at the bottom so you get a notification every time we post something new. I appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.